Yo, what's good guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use starters to make dark and evil samples for Southside. As usual, I'm just going to go through and break down a sample that I recently made and show everything that I did to make it, from the sound selection, the MIDI patterns, the FX, and all that. This sample in particular is from a sample pack that I just dropped called Nightfall Vol.2. It has 20 dark samples similar to this one in the style of Southside, Pyrex. Plus I'll leave a link in the description for that if you're interested. Definitely has some of the hardest dark samples that I've made recently. So yeah, like I said, I'll leave a link down in the description for that. Also guys, I just started sending out weekly MIDIs, starters, and samples. The starter I use in this video is from one of my MIDI/starter weeklies. I send out 4 times every month with a total of around 30 to 50 MIDIs and starters, and the same thing with the samples, around 30 to 50 samples per month. Plus, when you sign up for the weeklies, you get 1 free kit download per month through Beatstars. So you sign up for the monthly MIDIs and starters or the monthly samples. Like I said, I send out about 30 to 50 per month, 4 times a month. So, you know, that's around 10 to 15 per week. And then once you sign up for it, you get a free kit download through Beatstars for one of my packs. So you can also download a pack for free. So if you're interested in being added to my weekly list and getting that free kit download, I'll leave a link down in the description for that. But anyways, now that I've spent way too much time plugging myself, let's get into the actual tutorial. Alright, so as you can see, I got the final sample pulled up here. I'm going to go ahead and just play it. As you can see, we're sitting at 153 BPM and the final sample is in D sharp minor. So yeah, like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and play it. It sounds really dark, really evil. Once I play it so you guys can hear it, I'm just going to go through and break down everything that I did to make it. Yeah, like I said, very dark, very evil sounding. Definitely something Southside would use. A lot of high energy. Yeah, and honestly just sounds like something that would be in like a horror movie. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just break down everything that I did, so let's get into that. Alright, so the first thing that I did is I pulled up this female choir sustain from the Orchestra Complete, and I laid down this really simple pattern with just 2 chords going back and forth. And as you can see, it started in D sharp minor, so the root note is at D sharp minor, and then I just built this simple chord right here. So although it's very simple, this pattern is extremely simple, and raising it up 1/2 note is also extremely simple. And that's something that's going to make your sound a lot more dark and evil and just give it that spooky vibe, just messing around with the half notes. So just having notes that close to each other going back and forth, it just creates a lot of tension, and that's what gives it that dark vibe. Yeah, I just had this choir, and then for the effects I added an EQ to take out some of the lows, some of the highs. I added this preset from Portal. I added a lot of reverb, and I added a tremolator to make the sound go in and out, and then I added another EQ to take out more of the lows and more of the highs. And this is what it sounds like just with the pattern and the effects. So it almost doesn't even sound like a choir anymore. It kind of, with all the effects, it kind of turned it into a pad more than a choir. So then what I did is I rendered it out as an audio file, and then I chopped it up and I made this pattern here. I pitched it down 3 semitones, and then I routed it to a separate mixer track. So for the effects, once I had it rendered out and chopped up, I added some Kramer tape, added some fresh air to boost the highs and the high mids, and then I added an EQ to take out some frequencies I didn't want, some of the highs, some of the lows. And with the chop pattern, with the new effects, it sounds like this. So yeah, 2 key things that I did here to get this really dark vibe. Like I said, you want to mess with the half notes. the notes that are right next to each other to create that tension. And even though this pattern is extremely simple, it still gets the job done and it creates that vibe that I wanted. So that's something that you should definitely incorporate into your own midis for your samples. And then once I rendered it out, it already sounded good, but I wanted to chop it and just give it even more energy and add even more effects to make it sound even more unique. So that's something you can do when you're making your own samples. You can take a pattern that you have, you can render it out, you can chop it up, you can time stretch it, you can add more effects, half time it, whatever. And it can almost take the pattern that you had and make it a whole different pattern. And just, you know, it ends up allowing you to create way more creative sounds and some things that are way more unique. Okay, the next thing that I did is I pulled out this bell. I think it was from a bass one in Pilgrim one-shot kit, and I just left it as it was. That's what it sounds like. And then I laid down this pattern right here. So once I had this pattern out and chopped up and everything, as I said earlier, I pitched it down 3 semitones. So we were at C sharp. When I pitched it down 3 semitones, we went from C sharp to D, C sharp, and then down to C. So now we're in C minor. I just started with the root note at C, and then I pitched it up an octave, so I have another note at C, and then I have this little pattern in between, and the same thing here, and the same pattern, but these notes are switched. As you can see right here, I added a few more notes, but yeah, nothing too crazy. For the effects, a little finisher micro for some delay, some reverb, and an EQ to take out a lot of the highs and a lot of the lows, and some harsh frequencies that I didn't want. So that pattern and the effects, it sounds like this. Yeah, as you can hear, very high energy, and again keeps that very dark and spooky vibe. But these half notes right here and right here, you can see I added a lot of that because, like I said, that adds attention, that creates that spooky vibe. So the next thing that I did is I grabbed a little accent from Contact from this bank called Arcus, I think is how you pronounce it. I just went through the different presets and I found one that sounded really creepy and really, and I just came up with this really simple pattern right here. It's almost like an accent. I just have it at the start of every bar. And it just repeats. So again, I'm messing with the notes that are right next to each other. And for the effects, I just have Echo Boy for some delay and a lot of reverb, and then an EQ to take out the highs and the lows. So the next thing that I did is I found a pad from the same Contact bank, and again I just went through and I found a sound that sounded good with what I had already, and then I laid down this really simple pattern right here, just a simple chord. Started with the root note C, E, and then another C, and it just repeats throughout the entire sample. For the effects, I just have an EQ to take out some of the lows, a little bit of the highs, and some really harsh frequencies that were in the sound. This MIDI is super simple. All the MIDIs pretty much for this whole sample are super simple. This is what it sounds like as it is. After I had all that, I wanted to add some strings, and I messed around with a few VST presets and added some patterns with some staccato strings, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't sounding too good, so I went to the same one-shot kit, the Bass One and Pilgrim one-shot kit, and I found this one-shot right here, and so I just added that with one note, and it just repeats, like I said before, really repetitive and really simple. And I added some delay, some reverb, some pan man to make it pan back and forth, and then an EQ to take out the low end. And so yeah, it just sounds like this. And it just repeats throughout the whole sample. Had all the sounds, I just arranged the sample how I wanted, and as usual I have the very beginning with the most stuff going on, and as you can see there's a little bit of variation. So at the very beginning I have the string that I just showed going with the bell, the pad, the choir pad, and then the accent. And then I have the string drop out and I bring in the actual pad from Contact, and I keep the other sounds just for some variation, and then everything drops out and it's just the choir and the bell, and then I repeat that pattern because I knew that I was going to add a bass for this first part here. So I'm going to have a bass for this first half, and then a bass, and then no bass for the second half, so that the person who's using the sample has the option to, you know, chop it how they want. I have all the stems at the end, and then I just rendered that out, and what I did is I pitched it back up 3 semitones. So we went from D sharp to C, and now we're back at D sharp. And then I routed it to a different mixer track, and I added some virtual tape machine to make it sound a little bit more vintage. And then, like I said, I added bass to it. So I just used a one-shot bass, same one I use in a lot of my samples. And I just followed the root note, and then at the very end went down to A sharp and then up to A sharp, just for some simple variation. And then for the master, I have a compressor, and then I have Maximus to boost the volume. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the sample. Like I said, you want to keep it simple, mess with the half notes. The starter that I used in this sample is from one of my weeklies. If you're interested in signing up for that, I'll leave a link down in the description for that. And it comes with a free kit download. This sample is from Nightfall Vol.2, a sample pack I just dropped. I'll leave a link down in the description for that as well. So hopefully you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.